Today, I'm super excited. Our next episode of Diagnostic Guru, I have Megan Scherer. She's the co founder and executive director of Worth the Wait. It's a charity that supports individuals who are seeking financial support, who've been diagnosed with cancer, and they're wanting to secure a family. It can be anything from IVF, surrogacy costs, future planning, such as gamete storage, etc. These past few years, I've been lucky enough to be a board advisor for Worth the Wait. And I'm really inspired by her and Mike's mission and vision and the foundation of how the company came about based on personal perseverance. And that's why I have Megan here today, because I really want her to share her story, because it's actually become bigger than that, than your personal journey. There's more education and advocacy that's come out of it, and some science as well. But I could go on and on. I'd rather hand over the mic to Megan and have her introduce herself as our next diagnostic guru. So welcome, Megan.
Thanks, Leslie. I really appreciate you having me on. Give us a platform to talk about oncofertility and the reason why we're here.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Well, listen, I think what's really important is for us. I could sit here and boast about what I think your greatest success is, but I would love to hear from you what you think your greatest success is today.
Oh gosh. I think, from what started as this teeny tiny idea, during the COVID shutdown, my husband Mike and I were, sitting on the couch one night thinking, what can we do to make this world a better place? And we were reflecting on our personal experience and what we thought was, an unmet need. And we came up with this idea of helping young cancer patients with their future fertility. And I think from that little seed that was planted to know now that we have a nationwide nonprofit that, has helped over 200 people and we have 15 babies, three more on the way that I know of. And just the impact in the community that we've been able to create in 4 years. I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Well, congratulations to you and Mike. I know it's not easy. I think what's really important to highlight, though, is part of this, it wasn't just a simple, let's start a charity. I mean, weren't you also working and had a full-time job and had to transition out of that? And then you were doing both, and then you now are full-time, right? Executive director of the charity. So could you talk a little bit about that transition and what it was like for you?
Yeah, yeah. So for the first year and a half, I was doing nights and weekends, and granted, we had a lot less demand, so it was much easier to manage. But still, it was, every night we'd be sitting on the couch with the laptops up, and trying to be strategic about what we were doing. And I probably waited too long to take the step and say, like I'm leaving the security. And I was a volunteer for a very long time until I started taking a salary. And that was a difficult decision, but looking back, like I wish I would have done it much sooner. But I was, really lucky. I had a career in marketing and communications. And so a lot of those skills really helped me, especially when we first got started. I knew how to build a website. I knew how to manage social media and, write a strategic plan and all of those things. So between my marketing background and then, Mike, of course, has a financial background, we were like, we actually have like the right skills to get a 501(c)(3) off the ground.
No, that's cool. I think it's neat too, though, that you get to utilize the skill set that you trained in all these years, but also it sounds like it's what you enjoy and love to do, but do it more in an area that brings more meaning to you, right? And drive your mission versus working for somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I work really hard, but some days it doesn't feel like working because I'm so passionate about it. And I'm so lucky that I, get to hear the stories and build relationships with the young adult patients that we're helping.
There really is more of a personal story here and where Worth the Wait originated from. And your husband is one of those patient advocates, right? He also goes around and talks about his experience. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So Mike was diagnosed with testicular cancer at 26, and we were newly married, and he was treated at a really great comprehensive cancer center where we were lucky, they said, hey, you need to go bank some sperm. Um,
Mm.
he didn't want to do it because he wanted to get the surgery. And when he later had a recurrence, he wanted to start the chemo. But he did have two opportunities to do sperm banking. And once he was well, we started talking about building a family. And there were a lot of pieces in our story that just were missing from not having great advice and counsel. And so we started down this long road. We ended up using all of his frozen sperm through IUI, which was not really a great choice. But we were getting desperate at the end and actually decided that we were going to look into adoption. So we started that process. And then I said, let's just do one more IUI. And that's when we got pregnant with our son, Elliott.
Mm.
And just having him has been the greatest part of our life. And we went back, did IVF to try to have a second child. That never worked for us. And we said, we're gonna cut our losses. We're so lucky that we've had this child, but we've spent so much money and so much pain and just time investing into this process. Um, we had no insurance coverage for any of our fertility treatments.
Wow.
And, after we made that decision that, our family is complete, that's when COVID happened. And we were like, all right, what can we do? Like, this was fresh in our mind. We had that pain and really wanted to turn it into something purposeful.
Such a beautiful story. How old is Elliot now?
He's 8.
So, and he knows the story and understands, or have you spoken to him about it?
Oh yeah, he knows the story and he's got a worth the wait t-shirt and he goes to school and says, I was worth the wait. The financial assistance, is the bread and butter, and that's the reason why we started. But as we started, talking to more people who are young diagnosed with cancer, we realized, we can only raise so much money, and we can only make so much impact in that space. And if we branch into education and advocacy work, there's a bigger audience there that we can reach. So we started some education programs where we partner with other nonprofits and bring in patients to tell their stories, but also bring in clinicians to, talk about the science part of it, to make sure people really understand the human part and the science part. And then we kept getting requests for can we have a patient with this specific diagnosis come and talk about their experience? And so we decided to launch this patient advocacy program where we recruited some patients that we've helped and one that was just kind of in my network already. And we trained them to be able to share their stories at this scientific conference, the Oncofertility Consortium. And it went over so well. And their experiences as advocates just at this conference, now they're talking about, how can they do this on a broader scale and increase awareness about oncofertility. So it's been such a thrill to see their journey and be a part of that, for 2026, we have some other strategic plans about, how can we increase this base of speakers to get out there and share their stories.
I think that's important to hear from the individuals who are going through it themselves versus the clinicians that are treating the patients, which of course is incredibly important, but it's bringing that realism and I'm not the only person in the room, to the journey, and it's okay to reach out, and ask for help. I think that's really hard for us as humans at times.
Yeah, and actually, one of the clinicians asked a question during the patient panel at the conference, and she said, she was a fellow, and she was like, I just really struggle with these conversations about, how their cancer treatment can impact their fertility. What advice do you have to give to me when I'm having these conversations? And one
Oh,
of our advocates, Chantel, she was like, just have the conversation. Like, we just need to know all of the information. We need to know the facts. We can go back, process it at home. But if you're leaving anything out, that's going to be a problem later on.
well, let's talk more about you as a leader and a woman in your space. Do you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
I do. And I may have a different lens to it because my parents are both entrepreneurs. My mom had a marketing business, really all throughout my childhood. And my dad was an attorney and had his own practice, with multiple partners. So I always have kind of had that mindset. And yes, it's a non-for-profit. That's different than a for-profit business in all the right ways, I think. But yeah, I do. I feel like, I'm running the show. I've got to figure it all out.
I think that's cool. That's a new fact that I learned about you. So here you're in training ground all this time and didn't even really realize it.
Right. Well, and another fun fact, I left a corporate position in marketing to work for my mom.
Oh,
And we were kind of testing the waters, like, would I want to take over her business someday? And I decided I did not want to do that. But I always kind of had in the back of my mind, like, I want to do something on my own. I just don't know what it is. And then, all the pieces fell in place.
yeah. Oh, was she okay with that? That you
Oh
decided that?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And she's one of my best friends and just biggest supporters, especially when it comes to worth the wait.
Well, the premise of, Diagnostic Guru is really to talk to women like you, leaders who've been through it and know what it's like, building your own business and been through the ranks. Could you share with those listening today your one good, your one bad, and your one ugly?
Yes. Okay, so that's easy. My bad is when we have to say no because we don't have the funds to support everybody. The good is when I get the text with the picture of the baby that was born and
Oh,
knowing that, because of Worth the Wait, this baby, a little piece of it is due to Worth the Wait. And the ugly, I was talking to Mike about this and he goes, just say working with me. So I'll say that with the caveat. So when we started this, like we
yeah.
never knew we were gonna have to work together, right? Like
Oh, and live together.
that's a whole new level. So that's something we're still navigating. We're really great partners, but sometimes working together can get ugly.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, and he's a finance guy, right? So he's all focused on the numbers and so I'm sure this is a different approach approach for him, but it's also more your vision and your company. So I'm sure that's also a tangle at times too, right? Like I'm sure
Yeah.
are there scenarios where you're like, I'm absolutely passionate about this and I know we should do it. And he's like, no.
Yeah, he's good about the vision stuff. I
Yeah,
just, I'd never worked with him before, and it's like,
yeah.
those coworkers that annoy you because they do or they don't do certain things. It's more of that.
Oh, that is so funny. Yeah, I don't think a lot of us know what our partners are like in the work world versus we have different personalities.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the strengths and weaknesses at home can be really different than the ones at work.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think figuring out how to manage that because you're always in it, right? I mean, your entire life is this. It's from your personal story and it's also the business that you're building. Is there any advice that you give to anyone who's in the similar situation and how to get through those, ugly times?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we've had many conversations about like defining our role and
Mhm.
trying to stay in our lane of I think that could help with some disagreements.
Yeah. Oh, well, and that's the same way it is in the regular business world. I find that there's a lot of, I like to call it, scope creeping or lane crossing, which if you're really a confident team and open communication and collaborate, that can work. But some people like to control, some people like to take over or step in where they're not, shouldn't be. And so having those decisions, those, as I like to, I'm to sound like a scientist now, boundary lines like where to cross over and where not to, or just, oh, your input, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, but I've decided to do X, it's not an easy feat, especially when you're married to somebody.
Yeah, yeah. I'll like ask him for advice, and then he's like, "Why are you asking me for advice? You've already decided. You've already sent the email to take the next step."
See, now that's some advice back at you, right? Like just go with
Right.
your gut instinct and instead of asking advice to say, hey, I just want to let you know I decided to do X.
Yeah. So we're both learning in this.
Oh, wow. Well, you said it's 4 years in. You're coming on your fifth year. Do you feel that you're meeting your 5 year plan and what's on for, let's say, your 10-year plan? I know I'm sounding very corporate right now, but
Yeah. Well, we don't have a 10-year plan yet. That's probably
okay.
something we need to meet about, Leslie, so you
Yeah.
can give us some advice on that.
Okay.
I mean, truly, in 5 years, I mean, you were part of that very first strategic session that we had.
Yeah.
And I think
I'd
about,
love to go back to that, by the way.
right, I know, I think we've definitely accomplished everything that was on
Yeah.
that plan, and then probably 50% more. So I'm, approaching, a 10-year plan. It makes me a little scared because I'm like, oh my gosh, what more is there to do? But also excited just to see as the field of oncofertility, expands. And one thing Mike always likes to say is we shouldn't be in business. We should go out of business because there shouldn't be a need. Insurance should cover these things. Doctors should be able to educate patients about it. So maybe that'll be our 10-year plan.
Well, what a great way to sort of spin that around in a sense of your business isn't about, building financial acumen and ROI for you. It's more about putting yourself out of business to change the system, make the system
Absolutely.
realize that it's broken, right? So I think that's a great 10-year plan. Big, big shoes to fill, but I think it can be done. Well, as part of, worth the wait, could I would love to touch upon, is there anything that you think as entrepreneurs, and more accessibility for women? Because you talked about how your little network of nonprofit is mostly women founders. So what is it that we must do differently or that you've learned maybe from some of the other women, who have also built their own not-for-profit business?
Yeah. Well, one really great piece of advice is to pay yourself.
Mm,
So in the nonprofit world, it feels weird, right? You're fundraising, you're working hard, you're doing the job that you're used to doing, but you're not getting paid. And so that is probably the greatest advice that I received. I certainly do not make anywhere close to what I've made in my corporate careers.
mhm.
But just being compensated something, I think shows that, you are a nonprofit that is stable and is here to stay. And so that was really great advice. It took me a while to listen to it, but once I did, I was glad that we decided to do that.
I think that's important because really you are an employee. I mean, you're running the business, you're running the day to day. So why shouldn't you be compensated for? And then it gives you more focus, right, on the business, and the business is more successful, I would think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, I have friends that have started nonprofits that have been doing this for 10 or 15 years and they're still not paying themselves. And so whenever I talk to them, I'm like, please, it just something, make it something
Yeah.
because it just feels more legitimate and you're more committed to your mission.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. I can't imagine doing that for
Right.
that long.
That's something that really feels different on the nonprofit side. Like
Yeah.
somebody told me, you're not competitors, you're competitors.
Oh,
And
that's
just
cute.
knowing that I can call up somebody who has a nonprofit in California, and I just had a meeting with her, and she gave me like all of her fundraising letters. I'm like, when, what other industry would just say,
Oh,
here's how I raise my money, here's exactly what you need to do. And I think there's just so much kindness and strength in that.
that is a beautiful thing. I love hearing that. Maybe I need to be in the nonprofit space. That fits my personality more than the corporate,
Yeah.
environment where it's a dog eat dog, fight for yourself world. So even if you're all on the same mission, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, that's something I don't miss.
I know, I know. Well, I'm sure your stress level, even though a lot of stress comes with your own running your own business, but I'm sure your stress level is way down.
Yeah, it's a different kind of stress.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, we're coming to an end, so I have one last question for you. And I ask all of my diagnostic gurus. I believe we all have our own superpower. What do you think yours is?
Oh, I think it's connecting with people and connecting other people.
Ah, nice. well, you're in the perfect position for that.
Yeah, I love introducing people to each other and love hearing about, what the outcomes are and the relationships that are formed from that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, you've definitely, there's been times you've connected me with some people, which has been great. I think more and more of us need to do that and feel comfortable doing that. So thank you for continuing to be that type of person.
Thank you, and likewise.
Oh, thanks. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been so nice, to talk about your story and Mike's story and the journey that Work the Way has taken and its success. I mean, it's incredible in 4 years, what you guys have accomplished. So congratulations to both of you.
Thank you, and you've been a big part of that.
Thanks, Megan. Well, I'm excited to get this episode out there, and hopefully you'll have some more reach outs after people listening to it, and maybe you're just going to be the connector. You're like the instead of 6 degrees of separation to Kevin Bacon, it's going to be
Yeah,
6 degrees of separation to Megan Scherer.
yeah.
So, I think that sounds better. Well, thanks, Megan.